Hi, hello, welcome to Car Technologies. Today we are going to see what is MuleSoft first of all. Okay, this is our introduction video on MuleSoft tutorial series. If you have already watched our videos related to these MuleSoft tutorials, which are named as IT Online Trainings for you, and we have renamed our channel to Clark Technologies. So please continue your support and continue your subscription for us, and please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. Okay, okay. Let's start today's session. Today, what we are going to discuss is first let's see what is MuleSoft. Everywhere in integration world, MuleSoft is actually leading nowadays the complete integration world. So everyone have a same question like if you are especially if you are a students, you will have this question like what is MuleSoft? Is it a technology? Is it a product? Is it a tool? Is it a something else? So what? To give you overall introduction about MuleSoft, actually we need to know some background details. Okay, so let me explain you step by step. Then you will understand what is MuleSoft exactly. Okay, so if you have ever heard about the slogan of MuleSoft, connect anything, change everything. That is exactly MuleSoft will do. MuleSoft is a product which will allow you to connect any of the services and integrate exchange data from one endpoint to another endpoint. Okay, so we will see what is endpoints and what are the other things. Let's take an example. Let's say, um, yeah, this is one country, this is another country. Let's say we have our database in one country and we have one more service in another country across the globe. How the information is getting shared from one place to another place? That is the first question in our mind, right? So now actually we are going to see all the news channels and Facebook, all the APIs and all the flight services, all the bus services, and all the online services we are actually going to use in our day-to-day situation, right? So how they are actually communicating, how the information is coming from one place to another place. Okay, see, everyone is aware of Twitter, Facebook, and our credit card information and flight bookings, and someone we have already known like we have already used this Abibus or Redbus to book your ticket details and also how the details is getting uh, from if say for example let's take Nabibes. If you are going to book a ticket for a one India to, I mean, some Hyderabad to Bangalore. If you would like to book a ticket from Hyderabad to Bangalore on today is 18, right? Let's say for 20, we are going to check what are the bus and what are the charges available and what are the timings for that bus. So once you enter the details about the destination and source of your, I mean, Hyderabad to Bangalore, today at 8 o'clock I need a bus information. Once you enter those details, how you are getting the back the response as a what are the different buses and the different timings, what are the bus fares and all. Okay, everything is actually in the across the globe, across the world, everything is communicated to each other and everyone need to exchange the data from one place to another place. Okay, so how this information is exchanging between one service to another service is nothing but APIs. Everyone is using APIs to build to expose their services to communicate to one another system. API is nothing but application programming interface. Okay, let's forget about the abbreviation and all. Let's see what is API exactly. We got to know like one information sharing between one service to another service or one place to another place is working through API. So what the API exactly? Okay, let's take an example. Yeah, let's take an example to understand it little deeper and better. Assume that you and your friend went to a restaurant. So this is you and your friend. You went to a restaurant. What you are waiting at the table. What will happen? One waiter or bearer will come to you and he will ask you what are the food items you are going to order. Okay, once you give the So what will happen? You are actually checking the, you can check the menu and what are the items you are going to order from that restaurant. You will list it out and you will give that order to the waiter. Let's assume that this is our waiter. What he will do, he come to you and he note the menu details under, let's say if you have ordered one fried rice and one soup, something like that. So what he can do, he just write the details like you need a one soup or one fried rice. Then he will actually send that menu to kitchen, okay, where the food is actually processing in the restaurant. So he just took your order, he went to kitchen and he will let the kitchen guys knows like they need to prepare one fried rice and one soup for you. So he sent those details to kitchen. Then what will happen, the guys in the kitchen, they will prepare your soup and fried rice which you have ordered. They will prepare it and they will send that food to this waiter. What he is doing here, he pick up the fried rice and soup from kitchen and he actually send that food to your table. That's ends. Okay, so this is nothing but API process. So if you can assume that this menu is a, I mean, you are actually sending a request to waiter. Your waiter is actually acting as a API here. What this API will do, and what this API is doing here, he is actually taking a request from you. Like you give a order to this waiter, he is actually sending that request to server. Server here in this case nothing but kitchen. So your waiter come to you, he take your request, he send it to the server. Then once the food is prepared, the food preparation is done. What he is doing here, he took that food from there, that is nothing but response. So he is taking that food from kitchen and he is delivering to you as a response. So this is nothing but request, this is response. You here you are now client. Okay, so a client will send a request to an API. API will forward that request to the server and it will actually do all the processing. In this case, food, but in real time, some programming language will run backside and it will actually send the result and you required output. So once the output is result is available from server, what the API will do, this API will take that response from the kitchen and it will deliver to the client. This is nothing but client server architecture, and here the waiter is nothing but API. So whenever you are going think of an API, what is an API, you can just assume this as an example. Okay, let's see one more example. If you are a students particularly, you will you will be very familiar with this type of API. So whatever what will happen once your results is announced, what will happen, you are actually logging to your website, the results website which they have given. You need to enter your hall ticket number in the check, the box they available there. So once you enter your hall ticket number and click on enter, what you will get the results, right? Once you enter the hall ticket number and hit on enter, it will actually send your results, your student name, your subjects, and what are the marks in each subject and what is the final result, is to fail or pass, some like that, all the details it will deliver to you as a web page, right? This is also nothing but one more API. Let's say this API is an exam results API. So here in this case, the student page is in client and the exam results database is a server. What you will do, you need to send hall ticket number as a request to the database. The database will search for the hall ticket number in their details, and it will get the details related to the hall ticket number like the student name, subjects, marks and all. It will actually send the details to the same page where you are. So once you are sending a hall ticket number as a request, you will get a response like your results. So this is nothing but the API process. Okay. So what now we will see, we will come to definitions. What is a API? It's a service provided by an application to other applications to exchange data. So this API is a service. It is providing to the this student application and a database application to exchange the data between these two things. Like what is exchange? What is meant by exchanging data? Like this student page is sending a hall ticket number as a data to this database. Database is sending response to the student. Yes, to exchange this data between these two services, only API is useful. Okay. Then we come to know what is web service. Web service API both are different. There is actually not much difference between this API and web service. Web service is nothing but it need an internet to exchange the data. API or web service, whenever you come to your mind, it is nothing but a service provided by an application. It will actually use you to exchange the data from one application to another application, or one API to another API, or one system to another system, like that. Okay. Okay, now we are good. What is API? So actually APIs are two types. One is SOAP API, one is REST API. This is the REST API. Okay. But nowadays, like most of the APIs are using REST architecture only, REST APIs. So you can first ignore about the SOAP API for now. We will come to know what is SOAP API and how it will be useful in our upcoming sessions. For now, you just keep in mind like REST API. Okay, let's discuss about REST API first, because every major of the services, major of the applications are now using REST API. Okay. So, if you can observe what is the full form of the REST, it is nothing but representational state transfer. So, what it exactly means? What is the representational state transfer means? Okay. So, in our previous example, we saw like this is you. I mean, you people waiting at the restaurant. This is your kitchen as a server. If you can imagine that as a example. Okay. So let's say this is an URL. This is our itonlinetrainings5u.com. This is our website and this is the URL. Let's take this an example. By using this URL, you can actually communicate between these two systems. Okay, whenever you enter some URL in a browser, URL is nothing but this HTTP or HTTPS secure services. Whenever you entered an URL in a browser, it is nothing but you are actually sending a GET request to the server. Okay. What are the different sections in this URL? Let's see. This HTTPS is a protocol, and this is your actual website IP address and server details here. And this is the method courses, and this is the query parameter like name is SAPMM. So let's see by clicking by invoking this URL here. I am just opening a new page, a new tab. See, once you enter this URL and once you click on enter, this is nothing but you are sending a request to the web server to get this website details. So once you click on enter, it is actually sending this request to the server. It will actually get you the web page as a response. So what happens now? This is one state. Let's actually click on any other button here. See, now observe this URL is the complete website URL. If you click on anything here, you are actually sending one more request to the server. So now you observe the URL here. This is nothing but the registration page. It is coming now. This is one state. I mean the look and feel of this page is getting changed for each and every request. So if you can click on posts, it will send you another page details. This is another state. Okay, this is nothing but REST API. You are actually sending a GET request. GET means you are fetching the details from the web service. That is nothing but GET request. So you are actually sending a GET request to a web server to get the details of this website. Now let's see this. Let's click on any other course details. See, URL is getting changed. Once you clicked on any other tab, it will also sending a one more page details. For every request, every time the actual state of the page is getting changed. This is nothing but representational state transfer. So once you send a request to a web server, you are actually getting a response in the form of web page here. So if you are looking for any other image, for example, let's say I would like to see MuleSoft image. So if you would like to download any image from web, you can click on any image, which means that you are actually sending a request to the web servers to get this image. So as a response, what you are receiving here, this tiger image, you are actually receiving it back. So or else what is the other format is HTML page. You actually, the server will respond in two different ways for your request. So one is a HTML page format and one is another one is a image format like this. HTML page is also nothing but a web page. So these two are HTML format or this image format like a JPG image or PNG image. This image format, these two formats are actually used to the user to understand the response. Let's say if I am an end user, or you are a student, or you are an employee, or you are in a normal I mean if for all the human readable format, that is nothing but image. If we actually use it to understand very exactly what is the response. So if we got the response in the form of images or a web pages, then it is easiest to understand. So that is one format. So how the see, image or HTML is human understandable format. So we can understand if any web page response is coming or if any images are coming as a response from the web server. That is easy to us. How a programming language will understand this image and image or HTML or any other format? How a programming language or how an application will understand that? Okay, so how the server will get to know once you click on the image, how the server will get to know once the this human is sending a request from this web page to get the image as a response. How the server come to know that they need to send this, the server need to send as a image as a response to you. So that is a question, right? So to actually we have a two different formats which the programming language will understand. That is nothing but XML format or a JSON format. As an image, as a human being, we can understand this is a tiger image, right? How the system will understand, like how the application can understand that is a tiger image, is by using XML or JSON formats of programming language. Let's see how the XML data or JSON data will looks like. Now we know how the image is looking, how the web page is visible. Okay, now let's see how the XML format and JSON formats are understandable to the programming language. Okay, so let's take an example. Okay, here if someone asks you like what is your name and what is your other details, like where are you from and how much money you have with you, like any questions, if someone asks you in English, that is a human readable language and human understandable language, what you will get, you will send as an answer, what you will answer to that question, right? My name is MuleSoft and I am from India. I have 1,000 rupees with me for now currently. So like that, you can say as a response to that question. Okay. So this, if one man asks you, another human being will send a response like this. So that is actually understandable by another human being. Okay. Let's say if some program like some programming language or any system asks to the other another system what is this user details, this is nothing but user. Let's say I am a user. When someone asks me like what is your name, I can say like my name is MuleSoft and I am from India and I have only 1,000 rupees with me. This is my response. So if a system asks another system, what is this user details? How the system represent the same response, how the system is representing in the JSON format is nothing but like this. See, my name is MuleSoft, but in JSON, how we can write? For in JSON, we need to actually give all the details in the Flower process. So first you need to write one open Flower process, closed Flower process. Inside that braces, you need to mention your details. This is the format of syntax and format of JSON language. Okay, so same information how you can represent in JSON format. Let's see. My name is MuleSoft. So quotations name MuleSoft. I am from India. So my country is India. I have 1,000 rupees with me. So the money I have is 1,000. This is nothing but key value. This is key, this is value. This is key, this is value. So in JSON format, we have a specific syntax to represent our details. What is nothing but open process and closed process. Inside that, each and every entry should be represented in the form of key and value, key and value, key and value, key. That is why it is called key value pairs. Okay, so in that, for that key also you need to represent in quotations. Inside the double quotations you need to mention name and colon. Inside the double quotations you need to mention the value for that. What is your name? MuleSoft. Okay, then after each and every answer you need to put a comma. If this is a last line, then you should not kept any comma. Before that last line, for each and every entry you need to enter a comma. So this is a valid JSON format syntax. This is how we need to follow the syntax for JSON data. Okay, so in the key you need to mention name, value is MuleSoft. Between that key and value you need to provide a colon, and for once you are completing the one answer you need to put comma. Then second entry country India, comma. Third entry money 1,000. No, that's it. We have only three options and we have entered all the three details in JSON format here. So okay, let's see another format. Another format is XML format. So program will understand only the data is in the form of JSON format or XML format. So let's see what is the XML syntax to represent the same data. In XML, you have one thing you need to keep in mind, like for XML we should have a we are actually everything we are calling it as a tags. Like if you whenever you find these type of braces, angular braces, okay, this is nothing but tag. So employee is one tag, name is one tag here, country is one tag here. Likewise, so for each and every tag it will contain end tag. This is nothing but start tag. Whenever you mention the same name by using this slash, this is nothing but end tag. So for the employee tag, this is a starting tag. What is the end tag of this employee? Slash employee. So name is one other tag. What is the end tag of name? Slash name. So country slash country, money slash country. This is how XML format will looks like. And in XML to JSON, if you observe a difference, okay, we have already mentioned answers like name, MuleSoft, country, India, money. We don't have any other subheading like that, anything. We just mention the Flower braces. But in XML, you need to keep in mind that it should always contain a root tag, which is nothing but a subheading. If you are going to memorize it in a little way, you can actually if you can memorize it in a easy way, you need to understand like XML should need one root tag. Like we need to have any other root tag, employee, user or something, anything, you need to have first root tag instead of this open braces and Flower braces. In XML we should have one root tag, start tag and end tag of one root tag. Inside that root tag you need to mention all the values in subtags. Likewise, see here, this is the key value pairs. In XML, open tag, end tag. We need to mention each and every tag, open tag, end tag, open tag, end tag, and between that open tag, end tag, you need to mention the actual value. This is XML syntax will looks like. Okay. just keep on practice the different answers like this way. Write any one answer like what is your organization and where you are working and which what are you studying, like all the basic questions you can just represent in English and transform it to JSON and XML. So you will get to know how to represent the details in XML and JSON for your practice. Okay, so now we are good to know what is the JSON syntax and XML syntax. So what is JSON exactly means? What is the abbreviation for this JSON? This is nothing but JavaScript object notation, and XML is nothing but extensible markup language. And we need to keep one more thing in mind. If this is a normal response, you need to save this response in one text file. So for the text file extension, that is nothing but user.text. Whenever you find .text, this is a normal text file. In JSON files, you need to save in a format like .json files. XML files you need to save. You can just you can save this in a notepad and you can save it a file as a user.xml. So .xml is an extension for XML files. .json is an extension for JSON files. .text is extension for normal text data. Okay. So let's take another example. Let's see, these are the couple of persons. Like this guy actually knows only French language. She is English language, and this guy knows only German. This guy knows only Italian. This guy knows only Telugu. So how these guys will communicate to each other? Yeah, if this Telugu guy need to communicate to this French guy, English guy, German guy, Italian guy, this guy will need to learn all the languages: French, English, German, and Italian. Right? If this French guy needs to learn something, need to communicate to any of these guys, this French guy need to learn all the other languages without any translator. So so that is actually a big burden. So this will actually um, not all, because every person will need to know all the different languages is a big burden to anyone, right? So instead of that, what we will do, we actually use a translator in Google. For example, if a French guy speaks to you like hello, he will type that French details here, the hello in French language here. That will Google Translator will translate that message to Telugu, and that will show you like Namaste in Telugu. Right? Likewise, if Italian guy wants to speak something to this French guy, this Italian guy will send message in the form of their Italian language in this Google Translator. This translator will translate from Italian language to French language, and this actually sends a message to this French guy in their own language. So this is why actually the communication will make easy by using this message translator in our day-to-day life. Okay, so this is actually for normal human beings like us. Now we can actually use this help of this Google Translator. We can communicate in any other language with any other person when all over the country. How the programming language will do? See, our languages are actually this Telugu, Italian, German, French, or any other local languages like Tamil, Kannada. Likewise, what are the different computer languages? We have different computer languages: Python, .NET, C, Java. How these computer languages will communicate to each other? That is why MuleSoft actually come into picture. MuleSoft or any other ESB. The ESB will actually do this translation from .NET to Java, C to Python, or whatever language it required. It will actually take care of the transformation of the message and translation from one language to another language to make that programmer life easy. See, if this program is written in C language, they need to send one message to this Python database to get some details. The C language guys need to learn the Python and write the Python script also in their application code. Okay, if one language, then it is fine. What if this C language program need to communicate to all the three applications here? This system, this application need to learn on these three languages and need to learn write code in all the three different languages also in their own application. That is not needed, right? So that is why Mule ESP or any other ESP come into picture as a middleware. So if this C language want to communicate to this Python database, this application no need to return any single line of code in Python language. What it can do is like it can actually write their application in C language. It will put a message into this an ESB. ESB will actually translate this C language to Python, and it will send that message to that Python guy. Likewise, any number of applications, any number of different languages, any number of different programming languages or applications can connect to each other with a simple way, with a simple minimal configuration way by using Mule ASP. Okay, now let's come into our real-time example. Yeah, now we are good at this stage. What is API and what is the language the API is communicating to one another, how the information is transferred from one place to another place by using API. So we got all these basic details now. Okay, now let's come into our main topic, how the MuleSoft will do and what is exactly the MuleSoft is doing. Okay, now let's look into this slide. Let's assume that these are the different services, or these are the different APIs or endpoints, in whichever you are easy to remember. You can just remember this is one API, this is one API. Likewise, we have these many APIs, and these many APIs need to communicate to one another. This B is sending request to C, and this application is need some information from this, and this is sending response to this, and B is actually getting the response from this API. So it send a request, it send a response back. Now A needs some information from C, A send a request to C, C will send a response to A. Likewise, these 7 applications need to communicate with one another in this way. Let's see. This is nothing but point-to-point connection, which means like each and application is directly interacting to another application. Direct communication is established between these two applications. See, if B need to communicate to C application to get some details, it is actually directly send a request to that and get a response directly to that. This is nothing but point-to-point connection, like direct interaction. Okay, so let's see. So everything is good, right? So if any application of these 7 need information, it will send a request and get a response. So looks good. What is the problem here? Let's see. Let's assume that what happens if this application is down. Down is nothing but if this application is not working fine for some time because of some internet issues or some other network issues, what will happen to B? B will send a response here, and this application is actually not available. This internet connection is failed. So what will happen? What about this message? We lost that message, right? We need to send that message again. We are actually losing the actual data. That is one problem. Okay, what is the another problem? Let's say if this application is actually writing in JSON format, the C application is in XML format, XML data format. How this application is understand the C is required in XML format. So this application need to write some line of code to transform this JSON format to XML format. So if application is built in another language like C, what A will do? A need to write again some code to transform their JSON message to the C language understandable message. So likewise, the dependency is actually increasing in one application to another application. If A need to communicate with all the 6 applications, this is 6 applications code should be written in our A application. Line of code is getting increased. In that way, instead of concentrating on the actual business logic, this application need to write all the transformation logic, all the routing logic, everything in this application code itself. That will increase the code. These two are the major problems we will see in our point-to-point connection. For now, let's keep in mind that these two are the major problems. We have a lot of problems in this point-to-point connection. Let's discuss one by one. For now, let's see how these two problems will resolve. How we can resolve these two problems. We can't, right? Okay, let's see one example. So for this point-to-point connection, we'll see this example. Let's say we have, let's say we can assume one hospital application. Let's say hospital application is there, which has a different departments. Okay, like billing section. Once we are going to admit any of the patient in the hospital, we need to register for that patient details first, and once we are going to discharge from that hospital, they need to provide a bill to the patient. So billing section is one department. Dressing room, like the sanitary workers and nurses and all, they will actually doing the dressing for the patients. Let's say that is one, let's assume that that is one department. And pharmacy is nothing but medical shop, medical department. This is one other department. So this is lab section. Let's say if any blood tests or any other tests suggested by the doctor, we need to get undergone that tests. And patient mobile app, once we are actually invoking register through their mobile app, we need to get all the details to the patient. And this is the data department. Let's say how these applications are actually interacting to one another. If these all applications are programming languages are different to one another. Here only 6 or 7 applications are there. Okay, that is fine. They can actually send the details, and they will wait for the response from one application. They can communicate to each other directly, point to point connection. What happen if we have 1,000 applications to interact to one with one another? If it is 6 or 7, okay, that is fine. What will happen if there is 1,000 application need to communicate to one another? We need to write lot of code in our actual application to do the transformation logic. Like this .NET is one language, Java is another language, Go is another language, Groovy is another script. So it will actually raise the hecticness of the developer to write all the transformation code in their own application. Okay, so to eliminate all these things, ESB come into picture. ESB is nothing but Enterprise Service Bus. Let's take our real-time example. Like what is a bus? In our example, we actually took a ticket from if you would like to travel from Hyderabad to Bangalore. Hyderabad is your source, Bangalore is your destination. Okay, what will happen? The bus will come to you in Hyderabad. It will pick you in that bus, and then it will actually send you to the Bangalore through the bus journey. Likewise, what this ESB will do, ESB will take the request from this application, and in the bus journey, it will actually transform the um, it will transform the data to the requested format of this application, and it will deliver to this application. Let's say this is Hyderabad, this is Bangalore. In Hyderabad, this ESB will pick you, and this is actually in .NET language. Let's say this is in Java language or C language, or else let's take this example. A is in C language. This application is written in Groovy script. A will actually send that C language data to this ESB. It will transfer that data to the Groovy language, and it will send to the M application. So what will happen if this M application is down? Like if this application is not available due to internet or network problems, what will happen? Nothing. ESB will store the message. ESB will store the message from this application. Whenever this application is available, it will directly send to the data. So we don't need. I mean, we are not going to lost any messages. This is one advantage of ESB. And one more advantage is, as we discussed, if all the applications are written in different language, nothing. We can just put a request in this ESB. ESB will take care of all the transformations and transformation from one format to another format. It will send the details whichever for request format it will actually request it. So ESB in this case, it will take a C language code. It will transform internally in the ESB. It will write the output as a Groovy script, which is acceptable to this application. It will send a Groovy data to this application. ESB will not send the actual C to this. It will send a Groovy script language to this application. So likewise, this ESB will act as a middle layer between all the applications to communicate these applications to one another. So this will make the developers in journey easy. So ESB is enterprise service bus. Mule ESB is one of the enterprise service, one of the integration services of Mule. Okay, Mule is one type of ESB. We have lot of products in the market, like MuleSoft is one of that popular. MuleSoft is actually the popular product for this integration in terms of ESB. Okay, so MuleSoft will have lot of connectors. Let's say this is a Gmail. This Gmail need to send to WhatsApp. MuleSoft has a Gmail connector and WhatsApp connector. By using lots of connectors, actually MuleSoft will integrate one application to another application. Mu- um, the major features of any enterprise service bus is routing, transformation, security, and filtering. Nothing but like if let's say take an example for routing. Let's say you actually entered in a bus in Hyderabad, that will go that will deliver some people to Bangalore and some people to Pune. Let's say that bus is actually going to Bangalore and Pune. It will actually send some people to Bangalore and some people to Pune. That is nothing but routing, like different destinations based on the data. Let's see these examples actually one by one. So for now, let's keep in mind that these are the major features of any ESP. Filtering is nothing but, let's say for example, if a passenger more than 18 years of age, that has a that passenger need to pay full fare, and if a passenger is having 10 years, I mean child, they need to pay only half bus fare. In that way we need to if that is an example, we need to actually filter the passenger details while sending to the actual server. Okay, let's say if we have a 4 passengers are traveling in that bus from Hyderabad to Bangalore. Into that two passengers are actually children, less than 10 years. So the passenger details less than 10 years need to pay half bus fare, and more than 10 years need to pay full bus fare. Likewise, we need to filter the logic, and we need to route the services to different services. So likewise, we have lot many connectors in MuleSoft to connect with one service to another service. Let's say if you would like to get details from one database, MuleSoft has database connectors. If you need to send any data to Salesforce application, MuleSoft has Salesforce connector. This is Amazon Web Services, AWS connectors. If you would like to send the details to any DynamoDB of AWS product, it will send the detail by using this connector. So we have lot of connectors in MuleSoft to connect each other, and it will transform from one message format to another message format by using transform data wave. This is the one transform message. This is the main component to transform data from one format to another format. And that is nothing but if let's say one application is having a JSON data format, another application is needed the data in XML data format. This transform message will take care of the data transformation. It will take the JSON data format as an input, and it will do all the transformations. It will send the output as a XML format. So that will actually make our life easy. So likewise, MuleSoft has all the different connectors. So now let's come to our starting slide. Now, what is MuleSoft? MuleSoft is a product that is actually used to integrate one service to another service by using its lot of connectors, and it will transform the data from one format to another format also. Okay, so now let's understand the meaning of connect anything, change everything. So what MuleSoft will do? It can connect anything by using its pre-built connectors. It can actually connect a Facebook application, Twitter application, or Gmail application, database, anything in the world. It has lot of connectors particular to that service. So MuleSoft can connect anything and change everything. Change everything is nothing but from any other data format if it is required. MuleSoft will transform the data by using this transform view message. So this is the data view component. By using this component, it can change any data format. So that is the slogan of MuleSoft actually. Okay. I hope you got to know what is an API and what is a REST API, what are the different formats of the data, JSON or XML, and how actually we are sending the data from one place to another place. So all these basic details you need to understand to get into the MuleSoft implementation details. Okay. So I hope this session is very useful to you to understand the basics of MuleSoft and the integration. So if you like this session, please like, share, and subscribe. Please subscribe to our channel and share to your friends. And happy learning. We will actually doing a tutorials for MuleSoft and SAP courses. So please learn from our videos. Thank you. Happy learning.